Hello everyone, I'm Ron Zehr. I am here today with somebody who's been very important for my personal history and also has made a very significant contribution to RBC Life. He is my father and RBC Life pioneer, Dr. Albert Zehr. Hi Dad, I'll just call you Dad instead of Dr. Zehr. And this is what I call him, not what you all can call him. So Dad, let's start with, how did you first get started with nutrition and wellness?
Well, I guess the first motivation actually goes way back to the early years. I was born in the late 1930s in a small rural Amish Mennonite community, and our caregiver and our midwife was Aunt Barbara, great Aunt Barbara.
Okay.
And she had hot mustard plasters, goose grease, and herbs and all those things, and somehow we did just fine. But after she passed away, at the beginning of the 40s, my family moved to another community, and my mother discovered that we were way out of touch, and there was doctors and medicine, and we needed to go the up-to-date way. And so I got a sore throat, and they took me to the doctor, and he said, "You need your tonsils out." And from then on, Mom almost felt embarrassed that she had kept us in the dark ages. But something stuck inside me, and later on it began to resurface. Maybe that wasn't just all old-fashioned.
And so you started to remember that, and your curiosity came back, and then if we fast forward quite a few years later.
Yes, and by that time you came along.
I was there.
And your sisters, and we had a young family, and I used to ask myself, well, did Aunt Barbara really, maybe they were onto some things, and then especially I got the sense that, you know, our body's really supposed to be self-healing, and it's meant to be well, and maybe a lot of what we're doing is bypassing the natural health-enhancing function of the body. And that's when I began to study. And for my research, actually for my doctors, I did a study on the old folk home remedies of different cultures to see, now that we know the biochemistry of the body, maybe there was something there that actually wasn't just superstition. And that really impressed me and moved me into getting involved full-time in health and nutrition.
And so I remember in those early years, you would often say that the body was meant to be well, and you can still say it, I'm sure, way better than I can, but and it's doing everything that it can to maintain and regain wellness.
I was a little maybe harsh. I went so far as to say that most of what we call healthcare is really just disease management. And healthcare actually is to help the body help itself, to maintain its health and even to regain it. We're supposed to, in a sense, be self-healing. But sometimes there's frustrations that come in, and if we deal with those, the body will restore and recover. But if we ignore those and just begin to intervene with medication and drugs and so on, then we begin to go down another route.
And certainly that other route really also affects natural health care, because people are often asking the question, what do I take for what?
Well, I always say that when people say to me, for instance, they say, well, I inherited that. My daddy had that, my grandpa had this and that. And I say, well, you may inherit weak areas in your body and in your body's function, but that doesn't mean you inherit a problem or the disease. That means that if your immune system is overloaded and your body is toxic and you don't have good nutrition, that's the areas that will begin to suffer and show up first. So the medical approach, you might say, is to try to get those symptoms to shut up and be quiet. So that we can no longer have to face the symptoms. But the symptoms are telling us there's a problem, and that's what we want to deal with in prevention, particularly in cleansing and so on.
So Dad, talk about the motivation for Colo Vada Plus, because it's a product that has really stood the test of time. What needs did you see? What was happening that you said, you thought, there's a real need for something like this?
Well, I guess it goes down to one simple fact, and that is anything works better when it's clean.
Mm-hmm.
And I began to get involved with studying a lot of the health pioneers, we called them, in the 60s and 70s, like Bernard Jensen and Norman Walker and Salem Kurban and different ones. And they really focused in on what they called colon cleansing. They said good health begins in a healthy bowel. And if you are toxic, especially if your bowel is sluggish or has accumulated lots of mucus and crustman and so on, you cannot be healthy. So I studied all of them, and I became very convinced it's very critical. But I felt like each one focused in on one particular area as though it were all-inclusive. And I thought, let's look at the whole body cleansing function.
Okay.
And that's how the Colo Vada was born, and encompasses 3 phases, not just getting rid of your cleaning your colon.
Okay. So share with us about those 3 phases, because I think that's really important. That's why it's called Colo Vada Plus.
Plus,
right?
yes, that
Okay.
the plus was always an important part of it.
Yeah.
So first of all, I said to myself, if you're going to clean the sink drain, you want to first clean the sink.
Okay.
So in that sense of that analogy, I used the first phase, which is 7 days, and it includes 2 pouches of tablets and so on, to be taken one morning and one evening. And that, in a sense, draws and brings the toxicity, the heavy metals, the pollution, and even giving the liver an activation, because the liver, of course, collects a lot of the heavy metals and the problems in your blood. Okay, so let's get that all down into the colon before we actually clean the colon itself.
Okay.
And so within that phase, besides withdrawing toxicity, metals, and all of the rest of it, we also have some compounds that loosen especially the mucus in the small intestine.
Okay.
And that is very important, because digestion is very limited if there's a lot of mucus in the small intestine. And once we get it out of there, people will find much better absorption of the actual food, and many people eat less, and that's why often they gain, or they lose weight during that time. So that's the phase 1.
Okay, so that's the preparation phase.
That's what we call the preparation.
Right. And during that phase, those 7 days, people are eating normally.
Yes.
Right.
Hopefully that's a good normal. Anyway,
That's right.
normal, yes. All right.
Okay,
Yeah.
and so, but they're not fasting or anything. They're taking the pouch of tablets in the morning and one in the evening.
Right, right.
And then the second phase.
The second phase then is the next 4 days, and that's the actual colon cleansing.
Okay.
And during that time, they also take 2 pouches of tablets per day, slightly different ingredients. And with it, they take 4 pouches of what I call Colo Vada powder,
Okay.
which is psyllium and clay compounded together. And that will loosen the accumulation of encrusted material in the bowel. And also, the clay compound has a capacity to hold on to heavy metals and toxicities, because even though we've got it out of the system down to the colon, we don't want it to be reabsorbed. And the psyllium has an effect of giving it all a smooth coating, so it can all be passed through the body. During that phase, we prefer that they take only liquids,
Okay.
because we want the ingredients to work on what's accumulated in the body, not what we're eating at that particular time.
Okay.
If a person has a problem, they can modify that slightly, but the most effective is to simply do a juice diet during that time.
Okay. And during that time, so unsweetened juices, they drink herb teas and stuff?
Herb
Okay.
teas,
Yeah.
lots of water, juices.
Okay.
You know, it's not the most palatable thing in the whole world, but that's not the object. The object is to do the very best we can to get an effective removal of all of the accumulation. And hopefully by the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th day, results can be rather interesting.
it can be a
We've had a
moving
lot
experience.
of stories through the years. I mean, everything from stuff that moves to things that you don't want to get anywhere close to.
Right. And the amazing thing is that comes from inside of
Right,
us,
yes,
right?
yes. Some
Yeah.
people always think it must be in the product, but it's really not there. The product is simply moving it on.
Yeah. And so for people who have never done a fast, and that's a scary term for those 4 days, do they need to rearrange their entire schedule? Should they be concerned about feeling starving all the time?
No. The bulk of the product is quite filling, so that generally isn't a problem. And I use the term juice diet because some people don't like the idea of fasting.
Okay,
But
yes.
that's a bit of a North American problem. In other parts of the world, fasting is very common, and it's actually
Sure.
very healthy.
Yeah.
Now, that's the part that all of these pioneers focused on, just on that. That's what they call colon cleansing or detoxifying. So the plus was the part before,
Okay.
and then also the part afterward.
And that part afterwards is very important. I remember you always would stress
Yes,
that.
and that's what I call the restoration. Because obviously, if you scrub and do a real thorough cleaning, you're going to take some positive elements along with it, such as digestive enzymes and friendly bacteria and some other things that the body needs. So in effect, we want to, you might say, reseed the friendly bacteria, digestive enzymes, and bring everything up into real good order so that the body can then continue on in a good, healthy way.
Okay. And what about eating for that third phase?
That third phase, it's good to begin to reintroduce foods, preferably fresh vegetables and or lightly steamed and cooked and so on. And it's really a good time to begin a different and a better diet at that time. And also a lot of people find out that they end up not being so hungry anymore.
Yeah.
And a lot of the hunger earlier was simply the fact that they're getting so little value out of the food. Now you're getting much more value out of your food, so you can train your body then to go on with less and end up with more value from that food.
Yeah, and that I often hear people who are so shocked about that after going, what happened to me? I don't need as much food. I feel full sooner. Yeah. So, Dad, who can benefit, and what were the needs that you saw at that time? You saw the need for cleansing. What kind of people would be candidates for doing a Colo Vada Plus?
Well, actually, everybody can certainly get value from it. But whenever a person would come to me or phone me and my office and say, I have this problem or that problem, almost inevitably I would say, okay, how about let's clean your body, let's clean your system, let's take the Colo Vada, and then after that, let's see what's left of your problem. And the amazing thing is, many times that problem began to recede and often it was gone. And I say the reason it was there before is because the body could not keep up. The immune system was overloaded fighting all the toxicity and all of the metals and chemicals and what have you, so that it couldn't take care of the weaker areas of the body. Clean that out, then the immune system is now free to focus on the real problems, and this is why many people have regained their health dramatically. I mean, we had stories.
Sure. Yeah.
I still remember in Russia, where this has become huge now, a lady was telling us that she was writing her will and it was actually had a hard time getting out of bed. And all she did was went through the Colo Vada several times. And she is now the senior fencing champion of the whole country. And she blames Colo Vada for it. So that was pretty dramatic.
No kidding. No kidding. So just removing that weight of toxicity, that auto-intoxication, and allowing the body to do what it was designed and created to do.
I coined a little word, I called it the environment as opposed to the environment.
Right.
We're all concerned about the environment around us, but the environment is really much more critical as far as our health. We can't do much about the environment around us, but we can about the environment.
Right, and that's a personal responsibility for each of us.
Yeah. And I would just go ahead to say that I feel that it's very profitable for everyone to do this twice a year.
Okay.
I learned that from Aunt Barbara, spring and fall house cleaning.
There you go.
Okay. And persons who have a significant health challenge, they may want to take it, wait a month, and do it again.
Okay.
Because sometimes you're only getting the surface if there's been long years of accumulation.
Okay. So we talked about, you mentioned people may not need to eat as much afterwards. Any other health benefits that people, identifiable things that people may experience after going on the program?
Well, certainly they're not nearly susceptible to, flu, cough, all the kinds of things. And I believe our susceptibility has a lot to do with how overloaded our body already is and how our immune system is already stressed. So get rid of all those other stresses, it can much more easily take care of the routine things.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. And so what about side effects? Should some people perhaps be concerned about side effects, or there's some people who shouldn't do the program?
Well, if a person has really severe colitis or some of those types of things, they may want to have some consultation. The other thing is, there is within the program what we call Cascara Sagrada, which is a natural laxative, and that's the little brownish yellow tablet. If there's too frequent and easy movement, you can certainly just simply withdraw that one.
Okay.
And if the person is hypersensitive and has tremendous amount of toxicity being released, they can also reduce the dosage and extend it. In other words, take 1 pouch per day, and in this first phase, and just extend it a little longer, and in the second phase, do half of it and go a little further.
Okay.
But that's the exception rather
Okay.
than the rule. Most people can handle this quite well.
Okay. And if someone has a lot of toxic buildup, and how would they, what kind of symptoms might they experience that would signal to them, hey, maybe stretch this out a little bit?
Well, like I say, a lot of loose stools and so
Okay.
on. Also, perhaps of somewhat of a nausea.
Okay. Headaches?
Or headaches.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, headache is not uncommon,
Okay.
because a headache has a lot to do with the toxicity that's in your bowel and your colon.
Right. Right.
And so if there's a lot of it is there, until we really get it moved out, there may be some problem there.
Okay.
But if we understand it, it's actually a good sign rather than something to be afraid of.
Yeah, it's a sign that something's happening.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
status quo
something's
is
going
not.
on. Yeah.
Okay. And lots of water, you said. Lots of water
Yes,
throughout to
yeah,
help flush and carry stuff out.
And when you mix the powder, take it as soon as you can, because it does turn into gel, and it's not very appetizing to wait and to see what happens.
It's not made to be a pudding?
No.
Okay. And kinds of juice? Any particular kinds of juice that...
It depends on the person.
Okay.
We like unsweetened, like apple juice.
Right.
And but different various juices, just to give you a little bit of variety.
Okay.
Some people just take it with water. That's fine too.
Okay.
But that is a little more of a taste challenge.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I know that for us, we often like to take it with like an unfiltered apple juice, so it has a little bit of body to the juice, and we don't notice the powder in it as much.
Yeah.
Sometimes we even try to trick ourselves and have like some tomato juice and heat it up and eat it with a bowl and spoon or something to make us feel like we're actually eating something. What about today? You still see the need for a product like Colo Vada Plus?
Oh, absolutely, even more so.
Even more so,
yeah. I don't think there's anything that I'm aware of that has surpassed Colo Vada Plus.
Right.
For body cleanse and detoxifying, and the need is as great as even more than ever.
And certainly, I mean, every week practically, I talk to people and they say, well, how's your dad doing? And be sure to tell him I'm still doing Colo Vada Plus. And that's, we have people who have been using this product consistently twice a year for
25 years.
25 years, absolutely, yeah.
We have fine-tuned it a little bit here and there, but basically, if something works super effectively, then let's learn how to stick with it.
There you go. So, Dad, just in wrapping up, the question's going to come, how is Dr. Zehr's health? And I always have people say, when's your dad going to slow down and start acting his age? And I'm proud that you're not. But how is your health?
Well, it's wonderful. Actually, I just finished the Colo Vada about a month ago.
Okay.
But I can sit here and tell you that I have absolutely no medication. I had a major blood test a few weeks ago, and I was told they cannot find any problem. Of course, I'm very blessed, and I thank God for that.
Right.
But as far as diabetes, high blood pressure, all those kinds of things, we have no problem, and we're on the go. We've traveled to 4 or 5 nations this year, and we'll probably be going to several more, and are very active, both your mom, Janet, and I.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we say we're not going to act our age, and so we're very blessed, and we wish this blessing of good health, of course, to the next generation and our grandchildren, and
Yeah.
also to all of our wonderful friends out there.